Now you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now I am going to teach you the poem Suicide in the Trenches. Trenches are the ditches in warfield. Means Sinhala යුදාගල් කියලා තියෙන්නේ. During World War the First in France, English soldiers had to fight in trenches. Many soldiers died in those trenches. Siegfried Sassoon was also a soldier in that British army fighting in France, and he saw one boy committing suicide, having fired his gun through his head. That time, boys were taken to war. They didn't join war willingly. Sometimes they were taken by force. For a long time, they had to work in foreign fields. So he speaks of one such boy. I knew a simple soldier boy. Simple soldier boy. He, without telling soldier, he gives the word soldier boy, who grinned at life in empty joy. He grinned, that means he smiled at life in empty joy. He had empty joys because in warfield, soldiers were fed with patriotism, the idea of patriotism, fighting for the country, love for the country, motherland. The poet condemns that idea. Slept soundly through the lonesome dark and whistled early with the lark. With the lark mean in the morning. When the birds of larks, when they twitter, they had to wake up, right? Lonesome dark. In dark, they had to sleep in those trenches. This particular boy lived with his parents and kith and kin, loved ones at home, but war ruined his life. He was separated from his loved ones. In winter trenches, cowed and glum, with crumbs and lice and lack of rum. No rum. Rum is a drink like wine. Crumbs and lice and lack of rum. And he put a bullet through his brain. That means he shot himself. No one spoke of him again. The warfield, many soldiers died like this, but after that nobody spoke him. Yes. After that, you smug face crowds with kindling eye. Now crowd, general public, and also others, soldiers, they are coming to see him, right? Who cheer when soldiers lads march by. When soldier lads, mean soldier boys march by, people come to cheer them. Now they come and see this dead boy with their smug face. Sneak home and pray you will never know the hell where youth and laughter go. Now they are Christians. They do not have traditional funeral rituals. In Christian deaths, priests pray for them, and candles are lit to speed up their journey to heaven. Since there are no religious rituals, the soldier who committed suicide has no place in heaven. so that he will go to hell. Other thing is that he committed suicide. So this is a common tragedy about warfield, especially during that uh, World War One. Many soldiers, millions of soldiers like this, died in foreign lands, and their dead bodies were buried in those lands itself. They were not allowed to return home. At least dead body was not handed over to their loved ones. Okay, right, like this. Siegfried Sassoon's poem Suicide in Trenches has been written around the World War One. We tell as World War the First one, during which so many England soldiers died in foreign warfields. Foreign warfields. Yes, we should know that during that period, young boys from England were taken to war either by force or through the means of deceiving, DECEIVING, deceiving them through false patriotism. Right. In wartime, soldiers were dignified and attributed as heroes who fought for the motherland, and that idea of heroism and patriotism encouraged young men to take up arms in the Battlefield. Take up arms in the battlefield. Young men usually like to wear a military uniform and handle a gun. Handle a gun. Yes. Therefore, rulers use that as an opportunity to drive young men to military forces. Military forces. However, those boys who enlisted themselves in army could not put up with the difficulties of the battlefield. Difficulties of the battlefield. Yes. We should know that many soldiers were deployed in foreign battlegrounds and especially in France they had to face so many horrible war experiences. Siegfried Sassoon in this poem describes the negative side of war that ruins the ruins the lives of young men. Here, the poet speaks of uh, the pathetic plight, plight, plight of young men, young men who had to fight in the trenches of warfield. Warfield. Trenches mean I said Yudagal, who found Kapalathipuna. Right? Yes. The poem opens as right, I knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy, slept soundly through the lonesome dark, and whistled early with the lark. Please write those 4 lines. Quotation. No?
Finish, sir.
Right. Siegfried Sassoon writes this poem through his first-hand experience that he was a soldier in the First World War. Yes. That is why he says that he knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy. Empty joy. Yes. This protagonist is just a single person or single person who represents all young men in the British Army who had to envisage this horrible fate. Yes, full stop. We have to think why the poet uses the term inverted comma simple soldier boy and what we understand is that he is a boy from a poor family. Yes. The poem conveys how this boy committed suicide when he could not tolerate the hardships of the battlefield. Yes, full stop. As the narrator says, this soldier boy grinned at life in empty joy. Yes. one reality related to the soldiers in the World War One. World War රෝම ඉලක්කම් එක දාන්න අපි ප්‍රොනවුන්ස් කරන්නේ World War the first කියලා. හරි. World War One was that they had to stay in the foreign battlefields for many years till the war ended. Till the war ended. Yes. Those who died in foreign territories were buried. B-U-R-I-D. B-U-R-I, we don't pronounce buried, it is buried. Buried in foreign fields itself, and dead bodies were not handed over to their parents in England. Their parents in England. Yes. Very few who survived returned to England after the war ending in
Who survived?
survived, returned to England after the war ending in 1918. 1914 පටන් ගන්නේ. 15 උග්‍ර වෙනවා. 18 යුද්ධ ඉවර වෙනකන් යාලට සටන් කරන්න මැරුණා වල්ලනවා. Yes. When the poet says that this soldier boy grinned at life in empty joy, what we could understand is that the boy smiled, but that smile conveyed an emptiness. Yes. Here we know the reality that this particular protagonist and the rest of the boys England boys, rest of the England boys, fighting in the foreign battlefields were dislocated from their loved ones, ONES ones, and they were driven to a extreme isolation with a gun in hand. Yes. Here we come to know that this boy had to fight in trenches. Yes. Sometimes they had to stay in the same trench for several days, that they had to sleep in that trench itself. Yes. Soldiers are always from the poor grassroots level society, but they lived with their kith and kin with full of love and affections. Yes. But in the war field, they are isolated as they see no time to develop meaningful communication and friendship with others, because all the time they have to be alert on the war events and be ready to trigger trigger their guns at any moment. trigger, T-R-I-G-G, trigger their guns at any moment. Yes. Then the narrator tells that they slept soundly. They slept soundly through the lonesome dark, and whistled early with the lark. Early with the lark. Yes. After joining army, the routine, life routine of this soldier became totally different, totally different because mm, in their houses they spent free lives, but here the lifestyle became different and hard. Different and hard. Yes. They had to sleep in lonesome dark, lonesome dark, and then to wake up early in the morning to get ready with the gun. Yes. Now it is the winter season, right? Winter season also, they had to stay in those trenches. Normally winter, they stay at home. But the uh, reality with soldiers is that mm, even when the environment is very cold, they had to stay in the trenches. And after that, they had to listen to the crumbs. Crumbs mean loud sounds of explosions, bombs. Mm. And after that, they say in winter, cowed and glum. Glum means dejected, adairamatte, dejected, dejected. With crumbs mean loud sounds of bombs and lice and lack of rum. Winter season, soldiers should be given wine or other thing to warm up their body, but here they have no anything. So he couldn't afford the situation. He fired his gun through his brain. No one spoke of him again. Yes. Newpara in the stanza 2, the poet creates a picture of that this young soldier committing suicide, having fired his gun through his head. Yes. The poet says, please write these inverted comma, these 4 lines. Huh? You are writing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. These 4 lines, okay?
Okay, sir.
Yes. Uh, the poet speaks about the condition of this soldier in the season of winter, in the season of winter, season of winter. Generally, during the winter season, people of England live inside their homes, having kindled the fireplace. මේ දැන්නේ ඔය මේ heaters තියෙන ඒ කාලේ fireplace. ගින්දර ගහගෙන හිටි fireplace. Yes. But these soldiers had to spend the time inside the trenches, even in the winter season, and they were cowed, C-O-W-D, cowed and glum. Right. The poet says how far they were dejected and how they had to face the most unwanted situation in the trenches as a result of becoming a soldier. As a result of becoming a soldier. Yes. Next, we are told that there were crumbs and lies. Crumbs and lies, C-R-U-M-P-S, crumbs and lies. And lack of rum. Yes. Crumbs means the loud sounds of mine explosions. Yes. Yes. Those full stop. Those soldiers did not see sufficient time to clean their bodies so that in their hair there were lice. Lice කියන්නේ කවුද උකුණෝ නේද? Lice. Yes. Yes. When the environment was so cold, cold, soldiers had to be given drinks like wine or rum, but this soldier and others did not have that. No, it is not a day or two or 2 weeks or several months, many years, yes. This hardship for soldiers was not limited for several weeks or months, but long time like several years. Full stop. Therefore, tolerating such a long time had been extremely difficult. Right. When we are told that this boy put a bullet through his brain, through his brain, and no one spoke of him again, of him again. Yes, this boy could not tolerate the hardships into which he had been driven so that he had decided to fire his gun through his brain. The other thing is that they're confused, unconscious. මේ වගේ ලාගෙන soldier කෙනෙක් දැන් අර ඉන්නත් බෑ අමාරුයි, confused, unconscious. එයා කරන්නේ මොනවද කියලා එයාටම තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් අපිට කියන්න බෑ මෙයා we can't say that he consciously did that. Yes. Anyway, we cannot tell that this soldier consciously committed suicide because in such a depressed mentality, a suffering soldier would not be expected to be conscious in mentality. Yes, he has been separated from his parents, siblings, and other loved ones. Yes. Therefore, when a person caught between such a horrible situation, we cannot expect him to be with sensitive and emotional thoughts. Emotional thoughts. Yes. The idea of fighting for the motherland, the idea of fighting for the motherland became uh, fighting for the motherland. The idea of fighting for the motherland uh, propelled, not became, propelled, PROPE, double LED, propelled this young man to take up arms in the battlefield, but as time went on, he realized the the falsehood of that, right? The reason behind suicide is that. Now with a new para, write this quotation, these 4 lines. You smug faced. Yes. Are you writing, daughter?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Right. Here, in the last stanza, the poet describes the response of the onlookers, including including the soldiers of his army and the civilians. Yes. When there is a war, civilians pay tribute, tribute to soldiers, sorry, pay tribute to soldiers and pay tribute to soldiers and mm, they cheer when the troops of soldiers are marching along the road. Along the road. Yes. That is what the poet says that there are the smug faced crowds with kindling, kindling, I who cheer when soldier lads march by. Right. They are looking at the dead soldier with amazement without cheering him. Yes. They cannot pay tribute to this soldier uh, soldier having placed flowers because he committed suicide. Yes. The reality is that the corpse of corpse, corpse means dead body, corpse of this soldier will be buried, B-U-R-I-D, buried somewhere, B-U-R-I-D, B-U-R-Y, I said not buried somewhere in the battlefield, so that he will not receive traditional funeral rituals. Yes. In traditional Christian funerals, priests perform rituals having lit candles by the coffin. Candles by the coffin. Candles are burned in order to make the dead soul apostrophe souls journey to heaven speedier. Right. Nevertheless, there are no traditional rituals for this dead soldier so that he could not go to heaven and he will end up in hell. Yes. Thus, this laughter of youth will end up in hell. Right. Nukara. In this poem, Siegfried Sassoon emphasizes the negative side of war especially the World War One, World War One, because the reality in it was killing young men of England, young men of England. Yes. The poet criticizes the ruling authority for leading young men to die in vain, die in vain. Right. The poet shows the negative side of war so that this is a negative war poem. Negative war poem. Yes. Death in warfield, deception, false patriotism, false patriotism, youthfulness versus versus death, etc. The themes, etc. The themes. Satire, metaphor, irony, flashback, etc. are the techniques, while rhyme scheme, rhyme scheme, I told you, no, rhyme scheme.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is now boy joy, AA, dark love, BB. Right. Is AA, BB, CC, DD, EE, FF. Right. Then do a Kion ban me note. Can you? Did you write all?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Suicide in the Trenches by Siegfried Sassoon. Siegfried Sassoon poem Suicide in the Trenches has been written around the World War One, during which so many England soldiers died in foreign warfare. We should know that during that period, young boys from England were taken to war either by force or through the means of deceiving them through false patriotism. In wartime, soldiers were dignified and attributed as heroes who fought for the motherland, and that idea of heroism and patriotism encouraged young men to take up arms in the battlefield. Young men usually like to wear a military uniform and handle a gun. Therefore, rulers used that as an opportunity to drive young men to military forces. However, those boys who enlisted themselves in army couldn't put up with the difficulties of the battlefield. We should know that many soldiers were deployed in foreign battlegrounds, and especially in France, they had to face so many horrible war experiences. Siegfried Sassoon in this poem describes the negative side of war that ruins the lives of young men. Here, the poet speaks of the pathetic plight of young men who had to fight in the trenches of warfare. The poem opens as I knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy, slept soundly through the lonesome darks, and whistled early with the lark. Siegfried Sassoon writes this poem through his first-hand experience that he was a soldier in the First World War. That is why he says that he knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy. This protagonist is just a single person who represents all young men in the British Army who had to envisage this horrible fate. We have to think why the poet uses the term simple soldier boy, and what we understand is that he is a boy from a poor people. The poem conveys how this boy committed suicide when he could not tolerate the hardships of the battlefield. As the narrator says, this soldier boy grinned at life in empty joy. One reality related to the soldiers in the World War One was that they had to stay in the foreign battlefields for many years till the war ended. Those who died in foreign territories were buried in foreign fields itself, and dead bodies were not handed over to their parents in England. Very few who survived returns to England after the war ending in 1918. When the poet says that the soldier boy grinned at life in empty joy, what we could understand is that the boy smiled, but that smile conveyed an emptiness. Here we know that here we know the reality. This is a reality that is particular protagonist and the rest of the England boys fighting in the foreign battlefields were dislocated from their loved ones, and they were driven to extreme isolation with a gun in hand. Here we come to know that this boy had to fight in trenches. Sometimes they had to stay in the same trench for several days, that they had to sleep in that trench itself. Soldiers are always from the poor grassroots level society, but they lived with their kith and kin with full of love and affection. But in the war field, they are isolated as they receive no time to develop meaningful communication and friendship with others, because all the time they have to be alert on the war events, and be ready to trigger their guns at any moment. Then the narrator tells that they slept soundly through the lonesome dark and whistled early with the lark. After joining army, the life routine of these soldiers become totally different because in their houses they spent free lives, but here the lifestyle become different and hard. They had to sleep in lonesome dark and then to wake up early in the morning to get ready with the gun. In the stanza 2, the poet creates a picture of this young soldier committing suicide, having hired his to his head in winter trenches, cowed and glum with crumbs and lice and lack of rum. He put a bullet through his brain. No one spoke of him again. The poet speaks about the condition of this soldier in the season of winter. Generally, during the winter season, people of England live inside their homes, having kindled the fireplaces, but these soldiers had to spend the time inside the trenches even in the winter season, and they were cowed and glum. The poet says how far they were rejected and how they had to face the most unwanted situation in the trenches as a result of becoming a soldier. Next, we are told that there were crumbs and lice and lack of rum. Crumbs means the loud sounds of mine explosions. Those soldiers did not see sufficient time to clean their bodies, so that in their hair there were lice. When the environment was so cold, soldiers had to be given drinks like wine or rum, but this soldier and others did not have that. This hardship of this hardship for soldiers was not limited for several weeks or months, but a long time, like several years. Therefore, tolerating such a long time had been extremely difficult. When we are told that this boy put a bullet through his brain and no one spoke of him again, this boy could not tolerate the hardships into which he had been driven, so that he had decided to fire his gun through his brain. Anyway, we cannot tell that this soldier consciously commi- uh, committed suicide because in such a depressed, mentally suffering soldier not be expected to be con- conscious in mentality.
Conscious.
Conscious in mentality. He has been separated from his parents, siblings, and other loved ones. Therefore, when a person caught between such a horrible situation, we cannot expect him to be with sensitive and emotional thoughts. The idea of fighting for the motherland propelled this young man take up arms in the battlefield, but as time went on,
Hari, इनको भी किया ना?
he realized the falsehood of that. The reason behind suicide is that if some face crowd with kindling eye who cheer when soldiers lads march by, sneak home and pray you will never know the hell where youth and laughter go. Here in the last stanza, the poet describes the response for the onlookers, including the soldiers of his army and the civilians. When there is a war, civilians pay tribute to soldiers and they cheer when the groups of soldiers are marching along the road. That is what the poet says, that there are the, the smug-faced crowds with kindling eye who cheer when soldiers that march by. There They are looking at the dead soldiers with amazement without cheering him. They cannot pay tribute to this soldier having placed flowers because he committed suicide. The reality is that the corpse of this soldier will be buried somewhere in the battlefield so that he will not receive traditional funeral rituals. In traditional Christian funeral, priests perform rituals having lit candles by the coffin. Candles are burnt in order to make the dead soul's journey to heaven speedier. Nevertheless, there are no traditional rituals for this dead soldier so that he could not go to heaven and he will end up in hell. Thus, this laughter of youth will end up in hell. In this poem, Siegfried Sassoon emphasizes the negative side of war, especially the World War One, because the reality in it was killing young men of England. The poet criticizes the ruling authority for leading young men to die in vain. The poet shows the negative side of war, so that this is a negative war poem. Death in warfield, deception, false patriotism, truthfulness versus death, etc. The themes, satire, metaphor, irony, flashback, etc. are the techniques while rhyme scheme A A B B C C D D E E F.
Right away.